hold on. Sorry.
That's awesome. I got to hear the
What's up, YouTube fam? Robbie C here, and this week we're going to talk about one of my favorite shots in the entire game, and that is a Hyzer flip. You've seen me talk about in prior videos that the most reliable shot in disc golf is the Hyzer. So, when we start teaching ourselves to throw Hyzers, the next step in my mind at least is the Hyzer flip. In fact, a Hyzer flip is part of the single coolest shot that I've ever been a part of in disc golf. And if you stick around to the end, we'll go ahead and show it to you. What is a Hyzer flip? A Hyzer flip is when a disc is released on a Hyzer angle and then flips up to a flat flight, eventually either fading back down to the left, heading straight on, or turning to the right. Just as a quick refresher for those of you who may not be familiar, a Hyzer angle is when the outside edge of the disc is held down. This happens on backhands with a right-hand player or forehands with a right-hand player. Obviously the opposites for my lefties out there. Lefties are the only people in their right minds. So before we dive into how to throw a Hyzer flip, I want to talk to you about why you should throw a Hyzer flip. And I really think there are two major reasons. The first is that it is an incredibly useful shot to have in your arsenal. When you find yourself in the woods and you need to throw a dead straight shot, it becomes increasingly difficult to release on a flat angle, send it directly straight in front of you, and not have the disc waver off to the left or the right. Having a Hyzer flip in the woods is a game changer when you want to start attacking thin and narrow fairways. The other reason I would suggest people learn a Hyzer flip is because it is simple distance. When you first started playing, odds are that every disc you threw on a backhand went to the left. Once again, unless you're a lefty, and then it went to the right. You just saw disc after disc start spiking into the ground after you threw it, and you thought if I yanked over on it, then it would cause the disc to fly through the air and then eventually crash back down to the left once again. This is called a flex shot, and flex shots have an incredible place in the game. The problem comes when we want to start throwing understable discs. When you throw an understable disc on this massive and Hyzer angle, what's going to happen is it doesn't have the stability, or you could just call it the ability, to fight back out of this angle that we released it on. Then you're trapped only throwing super overstable discs, and you lose access to so many amazing molds that exist out there in the world. So why the Hyzer flip compared to the flex shot? There are so many sports that match the body angle required to throw a disc on a Hyzer that there is likely some natural connection you're going to be able to make, whether it is a baseball or softball swing, swinging a tennis racket, or even trying to swing a golf club. You will find that throwing on a Hyzer angle will create much less tax on your shoulder, your arm, and really all of you while you're throwing the disc. And you'll still be able to generate an incredible amount of distance throwing Hyzer flips. So knowing that it's an incredibly useful shot for whatever skill level you find yourself at, how do we do it? There are several factors to consider when trying to throw an amazing Hyzer flip. But before we can throw a disc, we have to have a disc. Let's talk about disc selection. When you're first trying to learn how to throw Hyzer flips, the biggest suggestion I would give you is to throw understable discs. These are discs that are going to be very high in turn. That's the third number in flight numbers. I would suggest starting with these because discs with a great amount of turn are going to naturally go against the rotational flight path that you put it on. That's probably some confusing language. When a right-handed player throws a backhand, the disc is naturally going to want to move to the left. A disc with high turn, and when I say high turn, I usually mean it's going to be negative in a high direction like 2 or 3, will want to move the opposite direction. The reason a Hyzer flip works on understable discs is because we are taking a natural throwing motion of our body and putting the disc on an unnatural flight that it wants to go on. The disc wants to go to the right, but we're throwing it in a way that it makes it want to go left. So the disc is naturally going to fight itself, find its way up to flat, and once it reaches this point, it has a decision to make whether it wants to keep moving to the right like it naturally would, or follow back into the path that we put it on, going to the left or straight. I believe when you're learning how to throw hyzer flips, there are 3 types of understable discs you should choose: putters, mid-ranges, and base plastic. When you choose a higher speed disc, it's going to require more speed and force to get to its natural and desired flight path. If you throw a disc that is too fast for you, it is naturally going to be overstable because you aren't able to get it to its natural flight path. Throwing putters in mid-ranges is an excellent way to learn how to do this, and I would even suggest while you're learning how to throw hyzer flips, using your starter set that you had back in the day. In fact, when you're first learning to throw hyzer flips, I would suggest trying to see this disc turn all the way over while you throw it. Yes, you're going to want to see this thing go from a hyzer angle to a roller. Robbie, I know what discs we're throwing. I know why we want to throw it. So how do we throw the hyzer flip? It's incredibly easy to do, and there are 3 simple steps. The first is we need to pay attention to the nose angle. What's the nose angle? The nose is the front part of the disc. When we throw our disc nose up, it exposes the bottom of the disc to wind, which is going to cause a disc to become more overstable. If you're finding that your discs are not turning over and they just seem to be going out, stalling, and then falling back to the left, you're probably throwing your disc too nose up. Throwing the disc flat and perhaps with the nose even exaggerated down is going to allow us to throw better and easier hyzer flips. We aren't working against ourselves by keeping the nose angle up. The second critical piece is the release point. When we are throwing the disc, we need to ensure that the disc is on a hyzer angle. That means that when we are throwing it, we need to exaggerate this motion. If you're finding that the disc is rolling over entirely, that means that you can put more hyzer on the disc and point that edge even further to the ground. If you're finding that you're having a hard time getting the disc to flip up, perhaps you're putting too much hyzer on the disc and you need to take that outer edge and bring it a little closer to flat. We can throw hyzer flips when the disc is just barely on a hyzer. They aren't called mega super amazing giga hyzer flips. They're called hyzer flips. Any type of hyzer is going to allow this disc to flip up to where it needs to go. The last thing you need to remember when throwing hyzer flips is follow through. How we determine the release angle and flight of our disc generally comes from our follow through. If you want to throw a hyzer in disc golf, you need to draw a backslash with your hand. When you release the disc, your follow through needs to move from low to high. If you want to throw a flat shot, you're going to follow through straight across. If you want to throw an anhyzer shot, you're going to go from high to low. It's that easy, and Paul Ulibarri actually has an incredible video talking about this and how to control your angles on release. Following through on your hyzer flip is going to give your disc the best possible chance to fly how you want it to and where you want it to. As a quick recap, why should you throw hyzer flips? They're an incredibly reliable shot in the woods, as well as give you easy distance while you're learning the game. I hope this is helpful, and I hope that you get out there and start crushing hyzer flips today. For those of you who love the hyzer flip as much as me, let me know in the comments below, what was the moment that clicked for you to allow you to start relying on this shot so much in your game? I love helping people take that next step in their game, and one of the easiest ways I do this is through the Birdie Fam. The Birdie Fam is a collection of disc golfers trying to improve. We do form reviews and talk about specific problems, keeping each individual from their highest possible performance. And we have a great time laughing while we do it. If you want more details on how you could join the Birdie Fam and take that next step in your game, head down to the link in the description below. Thank you so much for coming by, and if you stuck around this long, I want to show you the coolest shot that I've ever been a part of to be videoed. So much to my friend Pete Collins for coming out with his drone and helping film during this awesome session. I hope you guys have an amazing week, and I hope that you start flipping discs and crushing some tight wooded tunnels. But for now, I'm gonna leave you with the birdie.